to give a special welcome to someone my handlers say is a very important person, a VIP on the Twitter sphere. I'm talking about John Sheeran, Bengals and draft knower, a latter guy extraordinaire. Welcome, John, to the show.
Well, Hodgie...
Okay, let's not waste any time, John. I want to ask you about the draft results. Get your thoughts on this. I feel like it was a good draft in some ways. We did pick up some guys who are going to help us replace expensive free agents like Kevin Zeitzler and Drake Kirkpatrick in the coming years. But in other ways, I wasn't very impressed with our picks. I feel like they didn't listen to me or other fans at all. You know, in a way, Bengals management reminds me of the autocrats who rule over the slave empire they call SeaWorld. In both cases, I keep yelling and screaming and saying, no, and they just keep on moving on, man. SeaWorld halted its captive breeding program, John, as you know.
Just to be clear, this is about football, right?
Okay, I'm getting there, John. But then the Sith Lords in San Diego come out and publicly proclaim that orcas will be remaining in captivity indefinitely. And then there's Marvin Lewis and Duke Tobin. For 2 hours, we were sipping lemonade on my balcony. 2 hours, John. I told them, look, you got to learn from past mistakes. Don't just get us a mediocre cornerback. And I said that first pick is important. Okay, who do they get? With the 24th pick in the first round, the Bengals selected William Jackson, Part 3, a cornerback out of Houston.
I have to respectfully disagree, Hodgie. Yes, the Bengals selected the corner in the first round for the third time in the last 5 years. But you can make the argument that Jackson is the best one yet. His size, athleticism, and ball skills enhances the back end of a defense that lost two solid veterans in Leon Hall and Reggie Nelson. He may not contribute much this year outside of special teams, as is tradition of course, but he more than likely takes over for Drake Kirkpatrick as the opposite boundary corner to Adam Jones in 2017, and can prove to be a considerable upgrade as well. Considering how the first round fell, I'd grade the pick as a solid A-.
Okay, good points, I guess. Okay, I was gonna give the pick a D, but I'll give the pick a B-. Not horrible because it looks like a good pick, but not great because of our history drafting Rob Schneider grade corners. You know, John, I used to split my pants a lot when I was a child. And my mom, God bless her soul, would always try to patch things up. The problem with a patch is that it never really looks the same. We lost Mohamed Sanu, we lost Marvin Jones. Look, Hodgie gets it. We grieved, we cried. But then in the second round, we take Tyler Boyd from Pittsburgh, who's basically supposed to be Sanu 2.0. A Sanu wannabe copycat, isn't gonna improve the offense immediately. And we can't keep planning long term. We need something more immediate. Look, if the team doesn't win a playoff game this year, honestly, they should sell their uniforms to the Lion King on Broadway and just be done with it. We need to win now. You're with me, right, John? So I'm going to have to give this pick a C+. We desperately need playmakers, but this guy is just not the game breaker I had in mind. I wanted the next Odell Beckham, you know what I mean? I want a star. This guy is not a star. Sterling Shepard might have been that. Why didn't we trade up and pick him? Oh, that's right, because we're cheap. Because we basically, we're like the guy who goes to the dollar store to buy his wife a gift.
I see the comparison, but that's not a bad thing at all. With Boyd, you get to keep everything you lost in Sanu, a solid possession receiver that's capable of making plays over the middle, along with all the gadget plays and screens we've become so accustomed to seeing. You get to keep them in the playbook because Boyd has been doing them for the past 3 years at Pitt. Bringing in a guy like Boyd to take over the newly acquired Brandon LaFell as the presumed number 2 wide receiver in a year, while making an immediate impact as the slot receiver this year, makes sure the offense doesn't skip a beat even after the Sanu Canoe left town. I'm comfortable in giving the pick a B+ despite the slight reach in value.
Then in the third round, there's Nick Vigil, linebacker out of Utah State. Versatile, the man can play a number of positions. He's supposedly pretty quick, but he's somehow not fast. Now, figure that out, right? He gets overwhelmed by bigger players. He's kind of like a real-life Rudy, only we used a third pick on him when we probably could have had him a couple of rounds later. I'm giving this pick a D+, and that's generous. Sure, he's gritty and whatever, but we have enough enough of those guys. We have a Vontez Burfict. We have a PJ Dawson. How about a linebacker with real size, real athleticism?
Yeah, this was a surprising pick made by Duke & Company. Having already 6 linebackers with playing experience already on the roster, no one really expected another one added so early outside of a guy like Miles Jack or Jalen Smith. So Vigil has a tough road ahead if he wants any playing time in the near future. However, he actually does give the Bengals some newfound athleticism in the second level of their defense. Carlos Dansby was brought in this year for this exact purpose, but only for 1 year. So Vigil is a solid long-term solution to this problem. Because he won't be forced into action early on, he can gain some strength and fill the remainder of his frame to take on blockers like a traditional Bengals inside linebacker. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a C+.
In the 4th round, we have Andrew Billings, a defensive tackle out of Baylor, which I thought, John, was a headache drug, but it turns out that it's actually a place. Billings is a 2-down player. Short, gets nice bursts, but then that's about it. It's like that chewing gum that bursts in your mouth and then you spit it out. He doesn't help the pass rush, but that might be okay because you know what? We got Geno Atkins and we've got Carlos Dunlap. If he can occupy blockers so that those guys can go to work, okay, I'm okay with that. I give it an A-.
This pick was pure gold and deserves a resounding A+. Billings all throughout the draft process was touted as one of the top interior defensive linemen after a productive and decorated career at Baylor. I personally had him amongst the top 30 prospects. And not just because the man can squat 5 times my weight, but because he utilizes that unbelievable strength on all 3 downs, not just 2. He's great at attacking downhill blocks and is shown to be disruptive on nickel downs as well, despite the recent perception that he should be taken off the field on passing downs. As far as replacing Pecco in 2017, you can hardly ask for someone more with as much potential and talent as Billings has, and to find him here in the late 4th round is outstanding drafting. This is by far the Bengals' best draft pick this year.
In the 5th round, we took chubby guard Christian Westerman from Tosti, Arizona State. Westerman gives us nice insurance, and he's a great value pick. And we all know how the Bengals love great value. I'm going to give this pick an A- as well. I mean, it's the 5th round. This is about as good as it gets that late in the draft.
For sure, Westerman comes in as your typical Bengals offensive lineman. He's tough, he's versatile, and athletic enough to handle the zone blocking scheme they run so well. He has the skill set to play either guard spot and also to take snaps at center, so there's an outside chance he can possibly push Bodine. On tape, you see a guy who knows what he's doing when he's entering the second level of blocking, and does a great job moving guys out of the way on the move, reminiscent of how our very own Clint Bowling plays. We have to hope we extend Zeiler before his rookie contract expires after this year, but if he does end up moving on, we have a solid replacement now waiting in the wings in Westerman. Grabbing up another early round talent here on day 3, this pick gets an A from me.
In the 6th round, the Bengals got none other than Cody Core, a wide receiver from Ole Miss. This youngster, he's got some big play potential. He kind of reminds me of Martavis Bryant, but he really needs to work on his hands. Yeah, I'm talking about a manicure. So the reality is he won't see the field much this year, maybe not even next. Again, we're always thinking of the future, John. We're ignoring the fact that our quarterback lost 2 wide receivers with whom he had been playing for almost his entire career. Look, Dalton, he's going to be like someone who's trying to go vegan and is given a salad instead of a tofu burger. So Cody is a salad. The man ain't no tofu burger. So I give the pick a B.
If Boyd is the Sanu replacement, then Core is the eventual Marvin Jones replacement. You are correct though. With the top 3 receivers already on the roster, Core will not see very much playing time at all this year outside of an unfortunate injury, like the majority of his fellow Bengal rookies. But just adding him to the roster gives back the vertical dimension to the offense that Jones took away with his departure. He doesn't possess soft hands and oftentimes disappears in games. But when he's on the field, safeties have to account for his deep speed, which can free up AJ Neifert. In the 6th round, finding that quality is pretty valuable. He just has to show he can handle a good amount of targets coming his way. There are some better receivers available, like a Mike Thomas out of Southern Miss who went a few picks later, but in the 6th round, you're essentially splitting hairs. I'll give them a B-.
In the 7th round, the Bengals took Clayton Fejedelem, a safety out of Illinois. I wish we took Kalen Reed or someone with more upside. Fejedelem can hit people, but can he cover receivers? No, and my grade, unfortunately, is a C.
Fejedelem essentially replaces Sean Williams as the backup strong safety and will have to compete with Taylor Mays for that spot on the final 53. But he already has a head start in that competition due to Mays' 4-game suspension to start the year. Like Mays, he is a fierce tackler that is limited to in-the-box duties as a safety, not someone you want patrolling the deep zone. but we already have two guys who are fine in that role in Iloka and Darren Smith. He should be a fine special teamer, which is all he'll hopefully be asked to do in the near future. To round out the draft, this 7th round pick gets about a C+ for me.
So my overall grade for the draft is a B-. We went for value and you get what you pay for. Had we gone for winning, maybe things would have gone differently.
Well, my overall grade is going to be a solid B. This was about as much of a Bengals draft as we've seen in recent years, picking up great value in the late rounds with the occasional question mark in the early rounds. But I have to agree. You'd like to see some more urgency with the high round picks now that our core is in its prime. But I can't complain too much about acquiring good players on all 3 days of the draft.
Well, that's just great. So I'd like to end here, John, with a note about the Bengals. Yes, it's time for another Hodgescope. It's a tough business, the NFL. From concussions to deflated footballs, these well-paid, overfed men deal with a lot. I know. And on top of all that, they're expected to win game after game, year after year. But John, we Bengals fans are the greatest fans on earth. I mean, we don't want the Bengals to win every year. We just want them to win 1 year. And it has been about 30 years since we've really even come close. To all these new draft picks, listen, to all of you, I say welcome. Hodgie will be watching you and closely scrutinizing your every mistake. If you do well, you might be invited to my zero-carbon yacht for a scuba tour of the West Indies. But if you don't, you'll find yourself subject to the harsh and yes, sometimes unfair mockery of yours truly. So here's my prediction. It won't matter. You newbies are barely gonna play this year. Some of you are solid players, some of you are solid duds. It don't matter because this Bengals team is already stacked. It's ready to rumble. Yeah, I got a positive vibe going through me right now. Let me just say what the heart is saying. There isn't much room for you this year because yes, I am saying this is the year. Just as I have every year before. Over and out, boys and girls. Have a great summer.